Welcome to the Doctor Detective Series, a PhD true crime podcast, where we bring you critical assessment based on experience. This is no different. This is another wild story. This is about the OnlyFans model that ended up providing a service that ended in the death of their client, unfortunately. So we're going to take a look at a previous video, and it talks about the case. This happened roughly 2 years ago with Michaela Rylaarsdam and her client, Michael Dale, that unfortunately passed away as a result.
An OnlyFans fetish encounter ends with a murder charge. Michaela Rylaarsdam, a mother of three and an OnlyFans model, is the accused. She's accused of killing a male client of hers during one of his sessions. She went by the name Ashley Sincow, and she spelled Ashley Asshlley. That was her name on OnlyFans, and police in California say that she fatally suffocated a male client who hired her to engage in some fetish acts. The alleged crime happened on camera as well. The deceased is Michael Dale. He asphyxiated, police say, after asking Rylaarsdam to wrap him up in saran wrap, covering him like a mummy. He also requested to be bound by duct tape and have women's boots glued to his feet. This is according to court documents. He also had a plastic bag over his head. Now, the plastic wrappings were left in place for a total of 8 minutes time while the OnlyFans model was busy recording something else. She was on her phone, apparently, police say, and not paying attention. Police acknowledge that she did call 911 and told officers that it was her first time doing BDSM. Law enforcement says that there's no evidence that Dale ever requested that she put a bag over his head. The OnlyFans model is now charged with second-degree murder, and she's pleaded not guilty.
So yeah, that's the story. Pretty wild. Pretty wild, of course. And Michaela's now been charged 2 years later with second-degree murder as a result. This is a business she worked alongside her husband, and he was aware of the business and OnlyFans page and website, and they worked in collaboration. Unfortunately, I'm sure they weren't expecting something of this nature to take place. So she is charged with second-degree murder as a result of this male that was a client basically paying her for this fetish act, and he paid her $11,000, by the way, to perform, wrapping him up in saran wrap like a mummy, gluing boots to his feet, and at some point a plastic bag was placed over his head. So again, now the charge that exists, very unfortunate for her. Let's talk about this. San Diego, California, 2023. Michaela Rylaarsdam, aka Ashley Sinco, Sinco, and that's how she spelled Ashley on her OnlyFans page. By the way, if you like the series, share, like, and subscribe. You can find us at youtube.com at the Doctor Detective. Also working in collaboration with the True Crime Talk with STS Nation. So again, these are her pictures from her OnlyFans page, and not sure she wanted this to turn out. I'm sure she didn't want it to turn out like this. This is pretty wild. So murder charges were filed. Question is this like a proper charge for her? Should she have been charged? My understanding is that he paid her for these services. They engaged. At some point, it went wrong, obviously, very wrong. During the fetish act, she was actually performing an act herself or self-indulging while he was wrapped up in this saran wrap, boots glued to his feet, and a plastic bag over his head, and something covering his eyes as well. For 8 minutes, she was engaging, and this is all on video. It was actually on video while she was performing her, I guess, assisted act or part of the fetish act while he's struggling clearly. And the police have this video now in their evidence. So this is primarily the reason, I'm sure, the reason for the charges now. But again, 8 minutes wrapped in saran wrap. So again, a couple things went wrong. Question I'm going to pose later is this a proper charge for her? Because I understand once she discovered he was in distress, she began first aid. She did call 911. The police came out. She gave them the video, or they seized it as a result, and she told them the entire story, her business, her fan page, our fans page, and what took place. So again, prosecutors talked about the facts support a charge of second degree murder. That's from the deputy district attorney, Jarman, in that county. So a couple things went wrong, obviously. First and foremost, fetish acts, I guess it's really a preference of, what people are into, what they may engage in. But when something like this happens, you have to look at different considerations. So on the day this incident started, Michael Dale was intoxicated to begin with, not blaming the victim at all. Again, just a couple things went wrong, obviously. The primary request to have himself saran wrap like a mummy is very unusual. But if that's your thing, that's what fetishes are about. Uh, at some point, a bag was placed on his head, secured with duct tape, and the boots glued to his feet as well. So pretty wild. Obviously, Michaela was not paying attention. She was taking part in the services, and as I mentioned, self indulging. At some point, she did discover he was in distress. She also told police it was her first time performing what's called BDSM. Police statements talk about one of the videos showed Dale struggling, clearly trying to breathe, um, moving, obviously, of some nature, some form or fashion. But again, unable to signal, unable to get her attention with the plastic bag over his head, cling wrap, and so forth. Um, Obviously, no safe word in place there, or not the ability to share or shout out a safe word. So, Michaela Rylaarsdam, on her page, she talks about the Ashley experience. She says she's able to carry herself through intellectual, stimulating conversation. She says maybe you don't want to talk during your services provided, but you want to just experience something that's very intoxicating and provocative in her performance. She's pretty much considers herself a chameleon of the industry. She's able to redesign herself to your desires. So, what does that mean essentially? She's a performer, she's a model, but she's offering a service. So a couple things of consideration. What went wrong in this? This is called autoerotic asphyxiation. The police talked about asphyxiation. We're going to get into several different ways asphyxiation can happen, but particularly with this case, autoerotic asphyxiation. This is a practice of producing some kind of cerebral hypoxia for the purpose of attaining and enhancing solitary sexual pleasure or gratification. So that is autoerotic asphyxiation. Some other potential causes for asphyxiation can include suffocation, strangulation if it's a domestic situation, or any kind of self initiated compression of the neck, or some kind of linkage, some kind of tie or rope or um, string, whatever, tied around the neck, something that's going to restrict blood flow. I believe that is part of the fetish for the autoerotic engagement, but it can also be another situation such as drowning or some kind of mechanical asphyxiation, maybe compression of the chest area, something to prevent oxygen from entering the lungs and getting to your brain. Again, this is potentially self-induced strangulation. There have been several other actors um, that were discovered, unfortunately, passed with the same potential problem, or by the same manner, essentially asphyxiation. Again, it could be something self-indulged or assisted, like in this case. So, if someone wants to tie something around their neck and it doesn't take long to pass out or become unconscious as a result of cutting off the oxygen. So, several causes. And when we talk about the charges, is this the proper charge for this case? I'm sure they had a lot of consideration, a lot of discussion um, with the prosecutors, with the police, the video, and so forth, and they came to that conclusion. So there is that second degree murder charge. She pled not guilty, of course. But when we talk about second degree murder, we're talking about charges that involve unlawful killings done with particularly malice, a forethought, but without premeditation or deliberation. So maybe it's by accident or was it intentional? That will be a contingency for them to prove in court. These charges often arise from situations where there's an intent to cause harm or where the death occurs during the commission of a felony. So the question is, would this fetish act or BDSM be a felony? Is that considered a felony act? That's debatable. That will be a subject of discussion during the case and trial, I'm sure. Again, BDSM stands for bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism. Generally, it's not a felony itself. Based upon what happens, again, the legality of the practices depend on whether the acts are consensual, that's a point of contention, and if it results in any injury that can be considered criminal, like battery or assault. In this case, this was a death by this cause of the acts perpetrated. BDSM is also a variety of erotic practices, could be role playing involving bondage, discipline, dominance, and some kind of submission. Particularly in this case, they asked the husband about what took place. As I mentioned, he's a part of their joint business. He's aware that she has an OnlyFans page. He's aware she's a model, but he said no comment. What else could he say in this case, right? Um, Spouses can't be forced to testify um, against their other spouse. So his comment was none at this time, but he was aware of the OnlyFans page. It's a picture of them together here. They also have 3 kids, and clearly this was not expected to happen, I'm sure. Definitely not expected to happen. So we're going to dial back to this case. One question I want to pose is this similar to like an overdose where Good Samaritan laws may apply? That can also be a point of contention. Good Samaritan laws do not protect people who act reckless or negligent. The question is, was this a reckless act or negligent in the actions? Michaela Rylaarsdam said this is her first time performing BDSM, this type of fetish services. Being the first time, maybe she wasn't aware. Is ignorance excusable? Unfortunately, a man lost his life as a result. But also, Good Samaritan laws may or may not protect a person attempting a rescue. There's a particular case that took place in California where a woman pulled a coworker from a vehicle, but she caused permanent spinal injury to her coworker. And in attempting the rescue, she was found liable for the injury. Wow. So again, um, that's a thing. Do you rescue your coworker? Do you try to provide that service, or what do you do in that case? You just act in good faith. That's a point of contention. Of course, there's always appeals, but who wants to be in a situation and you're trying to provide a service for someone if that's your thing, and someone expires as a result? Of course, Michael Dale was transported to the hospital on the date of the incident. He passed away 2 days later as a result of his injuries and the lack of oxygen and so forth. So, Michaela Rylaarsdam, again, 29 years old at the time, she performed this services to Michael Dale for $11,000 in payment. And she did notice him in distress, provided CPR, called 911, waited for the police to come, left everything intact, and told her story, told what happened. Again, so was this intentional? Doesn't appear at this time, but again, prosecutors, police had some tough decisions to make. And as a result, those are the charges currently. This is 2 years ago, and she pled not guilty. So we're going to dial back to this case and pay attention to see the outcome, see if there's some kind of plea deal reached or some kind of defense that's built as a result. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in. Share, like, and subscribe. More to come. And this is brought to you by the Dr. Detective, a PhD true crime podcast. I want to say thank you for watching. Tune in again, please. like, and subscribe.